Hi, my name is Steve Lang. I'm the Assistant Director of Career Services with Central Washington University's Westside Centers in Des Moines and Pierce County. My guest today is Bryon Free, who is a Central Washington alum. He acquired his Bachelor's of Science degree in geology and then went on to acquire his master's degree in geology as well from Central Washington University. So welcome, Bryon.
Hello, how's it going?
As well, before we launch into the questions that I have for you today, can you tell us a little bit about why you chose to go into geology?
I was trying to find a path that allowed me to get outside. That was really it. It kind of ties in with what I did with school. When I finished up high school, I kind of did a bunch of construction jobs and kind of floated all over the place, didn't really have a place to go. And I decided to go back to school, actually through Seattle Central Community College. And there I met a professor, Dr. Joe Hull, who was the geology professor there. And hearing about his adventures up on glaciers and many other places just gave me an idea of where I wanted to be. After that, I spent basically 12 years trying to get to my master's degree. So the reason why I chose geology overall, other than him, was the fact that I wanted to work within the environmental sector as well. And it seemed like the best place to be. I could have gone into biology, but I was more interested in physical processes that were affecting the earth itself. So how are rivers moving things around? How is water affecting erosion and those types of things, rather than the living organism on the land? So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, so is that something that you had always had? I mean, even growing up as a child, was that geology something that always fascinated you, or has it come later in your teenage years or whatever?
It's funny, my parents tell me I collected rocks when I was like 5 or 6. I don't remember it, but now I'm collecting way more than that. So my wife tells me I have too many, but hey. So I didn't really become really interested in that, except for I was more interested in always being out in nature. If you give me any moment in time, including this interview, if I could, we'd be sitting on a park bench someplace rather than under a roof. And that's how I've always ran my life. So I just always, in my pursuit of happiness, is being outside. So why not pursue that within my career as well? So I'm not spending my money trying to constantly get out, but rather get paid to be out there. So, and that's where my pursuit has come.
Okay. So tell me a little bit just about your path. I know you graduated. I looked at your LinkedIn profile. It looked like you had done some instruction, like you're an adjunct professor for a while at Central Washington, maybe some other places. Can you tell us a little bit, just kind of quickly, briefly summarize your career path to where your most recent position?
Well, so my wife and my career path was kind of dictated by my wife and her contract, as well as what I was trying to do. So when we went over to Central to finish up my undergrad work and get that done, we found that my wife was still on contract with her position, and that left me with a year of trying to figure out what was going on. So at that point, because I couldn't really find a job and then move, we decided to apply for the master's degree. And so I ended up with that. I was able to get straight into my master's right after my undergraduate, and which I wanted to pursue anyways. But the other pursuit I wanted to do was teaching. And so when I finished up my master's degree, yet again, we had another contract situation where she had a year left and I was done. So then I approached Central over in the geography department to start become an adjunct professor for them, as well as teaching geology over at Yakima Valley College as well, which both were incredibly beneficial. I learned so much by teaching there. I couldn't imagine doing it in a different way. I often thought teaching was going to be my retirement gig. At least that's what I see with a lot of professors. They all work in the field and with the private companies, and then in their late 50s and mid 60s, they come back and, give us all that knowledge they learned, after the fact and become the teaching. Apparently I decided to do it in reverse. So I learned how to teach and manage large groups of people and that sort of stuff prior to going into the field and working for, most recently I'm working for ODOT. up until COVID. But that's the way it works out. And overall, that's actually helped me with my career. Both the teaching as well as further out have taught me how to manage different types of people and different aspects of where people are coming from. So I thought it was incredibly beneficial, not only the teaching, but the science backgrounds as well.
Right. Well, yeah, teaching and motivating other people to pursue your passion. So the other thing is that you taught, and then most recently with the Oregon Department of, you said ODOT, I'll clarify for people, Oregon
Yes.
Department of Transportation.
Yeah.
And now, did you go directly from teaching to the position at ODOT, or were there a couple other positions in there in between?
No, I went directly from teaching to my position at ODOT, where at ODOT, I've been part of a cataloging team to identify different landslide hazards or rockfall hazards or road fill fail hazards, which are yet another type of landslide, and cataloging them as well as scoring them in a way so that we could focus funds on where the funding for each different region is going to be best spent. Yes, we may have a really large landslide that is potential, but could we spend that $100,000 in a different way on several smaller ones that are causing us more headaches, that sort of thing. So by scoring all of these, we were able to target the funding and where it goes to get the most effectiveness out of the state budget. So that's what I've been doing for the past 3 years at ODOT. And so, yeah, that's it.
And then that was a sort of a like a contract period, and unfortunately, you'd mentioned you're just this month or whatever, your contract was up with ODOT. So now it's you're staying home with the kids while mom's working, and actually you said you're enjoying it. So that's good.
Yeah.
So,
well.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Let's go back. What I'm interested in knowing, you mentioned a little bit about your enjoying the teaching. But the other question is, what have you liked most about your most recent job, and what did you like the least?
Well, so what I liked the most was how much I got to physically work with the geology and understand what was going on around me. My job is to go out and stand on a slope and identify what's failing and why it's failing. Stand on a drill rig and see what's coming out of the ground to understand the structural integrity of what's happening. And having the autonomy to go do that, having people trust, since I've been through my master's degree and through school, and I'm being able to manage different teams as well, the autonomy to go out and just drive around the state and identify these things without much of somebody overlooking every single thing that I'm doing, understanding that there's that trust there. And that only came because of the master's degree, honestly, that extra amount of work. But there's a fundamental that you need, which is in the undergrad as well. But it's rewarding to be able to stand out on a slope and really understand what's happening, as well as just be able to look around and enjoy the outside world.
So what aspect of that job did you like the least?
Being in the office and crunching numbers. Yeah. Right. My boss used to tell me he ran an old company and said that he could never get his geologist to come in from the field, and every work was always late, and that's the truth, right? As a geologist, and I think it happens all over the place, which is a lot of us want to be outside. We want to constantly be out working within the field and working on different sets. But the reality is sometimes you have to come inside, and you got to sit with 4 walls or 4 cube walls or whatever it is. However, the people I worked with were wonderful, and there was always people there to help. Coming out of school, I was really afraid that it was always on me, right? I said I had autonomy, but it was never a problem for me to turn around and ask somebody a question. And we all hear the cliche, there's no such thing as a dumb question. The same thing goes in business as well. You need to be able to ask questions, and you should have a good relationship with your coworkers because they've been there a lot longer than you. And so understanding what they've done and the mistakes they've done and letting them, guide you a little bit is wonderful. That was some of the best things that ever happened. Yet again, I still don't like coming inside. So
no matter what the weather is outside. Yeah.
I'd rather be in my rain poncho outside playing in the mud.
Mm-hmm.
So.
So what do you think are the most important skills? I mean, you have all your education that you've done, geological education and all that kind of stuff, technical skills. But what do you think are the most important skills you use on a daily basis?
The ability to get along with other people.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to chat somebody up, right? You don't have to sit there and constantly talk to them, but having a way to get along with another person, and also having the ability to compromise if one person thinks you should do something one way versus another. And if both can be technically correct, you don't always have to be the person that has to lead the charge. You can let somebody else do it. Having that ability will get you a long ways, and having the ability to talk to somebody peacefully without having an argument with somebody is probably some of the best skills you can ever have. So it's all about personal skills, not necessarily your technical abilities, but the ability to work with another person.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's very common in many occupations. It's something we consistently hear. Yeah. So for someone who's just kind of starting out, maybe entering or thinking about a geology career, what kind of recommendation would you have for someone who's interested in pursuing a similar path to yours, or at least going into the geological field?
If I had one shortfall in the school that I did take, any of the schooling I did take, is I went into fluvial geomorphology, which is a very, very, very small space of which you can do geology, which was great. I had a wonderful time. I learned a lot about rivers and how that all affects everything. But getting that career, that job, didn't work out for me. I wasn't able to go specifically into fluvial geomorph, and I may never get there. I did not round myself out well enough. So for me, I ended up going into engineering geology. That's what I'm doing for ODOT now. And so I wish that I had taken more structural engineering classes and so on. And so I just wish that I had decided to go a little further to one direction or another. So say environmental. So then I wish I did some more environmental science classes. The geology gave me a solid understanding of what's going on, and you need that in your undergrad or your grad work. But if you plan on going into either one of those fields, you really need to work a little bit in then either the environmental side or the engineering side, and just having a better understanding. Soil mechanics is a really important thing to understand, and I'm learning a lot of it on the fly. You can do a heck of a lot more if you were to just take a soil mechanics class rather than have the same learning experience I am right now. Or if you want to go into environmental, like for instance, understand remedial cleanups and stuff like that, taking environmental science courses, 2 or 3, just understanding all of that different type of cleanup that's going on. And there's nothing specific, but having an understanding of how that stuff works will make you a much stronger candidate as you come out of school. So taking those electives that you have, as much as I wanted to take woodworking, I should have probably taken some electives over in the environmental side, that sort of thing.
Okay. Well, to be respectful of your time, do you have any other kind of last minute or additional advice you would provide to students who are considering a career in geology?
Yeah, it's fun. I get paid to go outside. It is a little hard sometimes on the family life. So, right, I've got 2 kids and a wife, and so I can be gone for a week. But if you want to be a geologist, that's the reality. All right. So it's not meant to deter anyone from doing it. I just want you to understand what you're getting into. At the same time, it is really rewarding to be able to sit down, draw up a map, and understand what's going on underneath your feet and what potentially is going to happen. Other than that, the market may be saturated right now, but somebody will take a bite and say, yes, I'll give you a chance. That is a big deal. So just keep working at it. Mm-hmm. I remember when I went from adjunct professor to ODOT, I put out a lot of different resumes and applications. And I think it's something that every student may hear, but just don't let it get you down, because somebody will eventually take you on. I promise that. So.
Okay. Well, Bryon, I appreciate your time. sharing your information with the students. I wish you all the luck and you know, continuing this path. Sounds like you're really enjoying what you're doing, and I'm sure the students will really appreciate the information you shared with us. So I thank you again.
Yep, happy to do it. All right, thank you, Steve.